Hi there, it's Danny back again with another furniture makeover, and this week it's a White Cottage Company inspired DIY small furniture makeover using a DIY transfer that I have done in some previous videos. I was actually inspired by the White Cottage Company. Mary and my sister Nikki put me onto her, and she is what I used to follow originally, and she is what inspired me to actually do furniture flips. And this is a piece that inspired me. It's a little small. It was a little brown table. She painted white and she put a rub-on transfer on, but I will be using my own transfer, and it will be a DIY transfer that you're not restricted then to any particular design, and also it's very cheap. It's a lot cheaper. So my neighbour Yvette gave me this table, and we weren't sure exactly what it was. Georgia and I were trying to, suss it out and think what could it be. I thought it might have been a telephone table, and I asked Yvette and she said yeah, that's what they used to use it for. I guess to put your telephone on and papers and under the flap and that sort of thing. So I'll be painting this white, but I did think that I would sand the top back because the timber is a beautiful oak, and if I could have sanded the whole thing, it just would have taken a lot. I guess I could have done it, but because this is a white painted piece flip, I'll be just sanding the top, and you can see the beautiful oak there and the beautiful colour, and it's a very hard wood. I mean, I don't know my woods. I know pine and oak, that's about it. Merbau, that sort of thing. But for furniture, the oak is so pretty. And I know Kmart sell a lot of furniture that have the faux oak laminate sort of look to it, and that's how I recognised it was oak, because I thought it looked like that. So what I'm doing to prepare is taking the handles off. I'm unscrewing this little piece, and I thought by doing that I could take that whole flap off. That didn't work though, because it was attached to the sides and I couldn't get to that. And they have little knobs on the side covering the screw holes, and instead of just painting over those, because they do come off pretty easy, I'm going to fill those in, and I'm going to sand over them, and I'll paint over those ones too. I bought this sanding block a while ago at Bunnings, mainly because it was just reduced to really cheap, and I thought, how could you use that as a sanding block? But I looked it up, and it's actually just used as a base to wrap your sandpaper around. I mean, maybe you could use it as a sanding block, I don't know. Maybe it would shine, because I've seen people actually sand with brown paper bags, so maybe it serves some other purpose as well. I'm just scuff sanding here over the drawers and over the whole piece, and filling in any little scrapes and knocks. I did actually, when I was sanding the top, scrape. You can see up there where I'm filling in now. I did scrape that a little bit, so I've got to fill that in, and I will scuff sand it so it's a little bit scarred, and it'll help the paint and primer stick to it a little bit better. Actually, to be honest, I've heard that if you use primer you don't have to scuff sand, but all of the videos I've watched, people do scuff sand and then put their primer on, and I guess in the end it doesn't really hurt. To actually fill in the gaps and the holes, I use Parfix multi-purpose filler. So it's not only wood, it can be cement, it can be all sorts of different things. After I've scuff sanded, I will go and I'll just wipe off all of the dust, and I'll clean with the sugar soap, and that will get off any grease and grime and bits that are stuck on, and then I will just spray it lightly with water and wipe it over it and let it dry. Yeah, with Mary from White Cottage Company, she really is fascinating, and she was Amish, and I don't think they are anymore, because I don't think if you're Amish you're allowed to have anything to do much with the outside world or technology, that sort of thing. Here, I remember to clean underneath at the last minute, and lucky I did, because there were some cobwebs and there was a little daddy long leg spider there too. I'd run out of masking tape, so Sophie had in a craft box, she had some washi tape that she got from Kmart, and so I used that. It's not ultra sticky, but I just made sure I pushed it down and made sure that it was stuck down so that no paint would bleed through. My channel's called Our Humble Home, and if you haven't been here before, thanks for clicking on the video and watching. So I'm applying my primer. It's a 4-in-1 undercoat primer to seal it. It's a stain blocker to the piece, just in case there's any bleed through. And I actually only put one coat of this on. I was running out of it. I did have to add water to it. It was quite thick. But yeah, it did the purpose. It solved the problem that may have arisen from any bleed through. No bleed through came through here, even though in some parts I had sanded back to the actual wood. When I used to start, when I had watched Mary and I used to start painting my furniture white, she doesn't do primer at all, and I never did either. She will do a little bit if she can see some bleed through. So her makeovers are very simple. She won't even scuff sand. She'll just use Krug Kutter to degloss. She'll, clean it. She'll paint it. If there's any bleed through, she'll put some stain blocker on top of the paint and deal with it when she sees the bleed through. But and that's how I first started. And then I started watching other videos of people, and they would go to all this trouble and put primer and scuff sand and do all that sort of thing. And so I thought I'd start doing that, and that was mainly because I was selling my pieces and I didn't want there to be any bleeding coming through down the track. What I'm doing here is making some chalk paint. I bought a $2 mist tint pot, which is what I do pretty much if I can get them. Actually at Bunnings I haven't had so many lately. But I actually got this white one. I'm thinking, why is there a white mist tint pot? But it must have just been tinted to some different colour white, so they couldn't put it back on. I have so many of them in the cupboard, different colours that I probably wouldn't choose, but this one was white, which I was hoping there would be a white one. They must have just tinted it a bit of an off-white, and it wasn't the right colour for them. I don't know why else it would be on a mist tint table. I start painting. I'm just painting with a brush, and then I will go over it with a roller. As far as the chalk paint goes, I use calcium carbonate. I use 1 tablespoon to 1 cup or 250 ml of paint. I did another recipe once on a green set of tables. That was 2 tablespoons to 250 ml, but I found it was really ultra chalky and gritty, so I just do the 1 tablespoon now. And then after I've done the coat, I've started, actually I never used to do this, but going over it with a roller, and this makes the paint really smooth, almost like it's been sprayed on. Just looking at that, I think I definitely could have put another coat of primer on. It would have helped a little, I guess, but yeah, another coat would have made the piece a lot wider and probably helped when I put the paint on, because I did end up putting 4 coats on this, and even then I was thinking I could probably keep going. I don't know why it didn't cover it all that well, but yeah, 4 coats plus the 1 coat of primer, so that was 5 coats I did all together on this. Just replacing the little screws into that mechanism, and now it's time to take off the washi tape, and it actually did the job. At some parts I did have to push it back down when I was painting, because it definitely isn't as strong as masking tape, but in a pinch, if you don't have anything else, it did the job. and there are always little bleed through bits, especially up around the top whenever I do a sanded top. So I just go in by hand and just sand that off. It doesn't take much at all. This is a very fine sanding block I bought from Bunnings. I love it. As you can see, it's been well used, and it makes the top of whenever I sand, it makes the top piece really, really smooth. So these handles I'm putting on, handles in inverted commas, I'm putting on this piece. When I bought them, they're in a 4-pack, too big and too small, and I thought they're unusual looking handles. They were with the handles at Kmart, but when I was putting them on and I opened the box, there weren't any long screws, and they actually had wall reinforcements in them. And when I looked on the packet, they weren't handles at all. They were actually hooks, gold hooks. But I decided to put them on as handles. I did have some screws because I have so many Kmart handles, and I had some screws from some other handles that I used. And because this is a vintagey old looking piece and it's a bit you know, not quite modern, I think these handles actually look quite pretty, so I was happy with them in the end. And these are the designs that I printed out to use as my DIY transfers. In the end I chose this particular design, but at the side you can see it's been cut off, and instead of putting it on like that, I'm going to cut around the little leaves to make it look like they haven't been cut off, if you know what I mean, and that yeah, the piece hasn't been printed out and it's an actual transfer. I just got this design off the internet and I printed it out at Officeworks. It was 49 cents for an A4 sheet. Whenever there's any writing with your transfers, be sure to print it out in reverse. And the matte medium is what I use to apply the transfer, and it will stick. It is like a glue, but it's used actually to add to paint, to make the paint chalky and matte. Looking here, and at the time I thought, oh wow, I've put way too much on. I normally don't put this much on, and I found when I stuck the paper down it was quite wet and soggy. It slipped, and also when I smoothed out the paper for any air bubbles the matte medium sort of squirted out from the ends. So I don't suggest you put so much on. So you can see it's very soggy there, and I did leave it 20 to 30 minutes, but in hindsight I probably should have left it a bit longer, because I did end up scraping off some of the words at the top, the chateau, and a lot of the time with this process, you know, that can happen. I mean, it's not 100% foolproof, but on a distressed piece or anything that might be a little old or vintagey looking, you know, it's perfect. And all I do now is I'm just lightly scraping off layers of paper. If you do push too hard, you will take off print, which you can see I've done at the top there a little bit. But it's a process, and it's when you don't want to rush. I will stop in between. Once I've taken off the first layer, I will stop and let it dry, and then I will take off, spray it again, and try to take off another layer. With this actual piece, in the end, I did, after I just sanded it back lightly, I did actually wet it again and use the fine sanding block to actually get the excess paper off, the white excess paper off, if that makes sense, because that was quite visible and I didn't want it to look like it had just been stuck on there. So this actually got it off really well. In saying that, I did end up leaving this piece overnight because it was about 11 o'clock when I started it, and I thought I'm going to bed. So this was left overnight, so maybe that's why the print stayed on when I sanded it down better. But it did work out really well, and I was really pleased. It was a really pretty design. On the internet, these cost about $18, these ones, but you know, DIY transfers can be very expensive, so this is a very cheap way of doing it. It cost me 49 cents for the print, and it was $4. The matte medium was $4 for the bottle. And I'm going to put another one on the top. I'm using this design I got off the internet as well, and again I printed it out in reverse, and this will be going up on the flap at the top that you can fold down. I'm just doing exactly the same process, putting the matte medium on, sticking it on. I let this one dry for about 5 minutes, and then I start rubbing it off after I spray some water onto it, and I just take my time doing that. I put a video up last week that sort of, I did transfers on some coasters, and I explain a little bit more what I do there. So I'll put a link up now, and you can click on that if you want to have a look at that. But I'm sort of excited about it. I get excited over silly things. But yeah, so now, and you're not only limited to the designs that you can find or that, say, a furniture transfer place will sell. You can print out a picture or a photograph and, you know, put those on coasters, make a set of coasters with your family photographs. So it's a great option if you don't want to spend the money, or you want to transfer something that, you know, is special to you. And now I'm just going to whitewash the top. Because I normally wax the wood, when you do wax the plain wood, it does come up a bit darker, and I wanted the top of this to be quite light, so I thought I'd whitewash it. I don't measure, I just stick a little bit of paint in and just add water until it's quite runny. The runnier it is, the lighter the whitewash will be. And you know, it might be safer doing it that way, because then you can do layers of it until you get to the desired colour. If you make it too thick, it might be a bit too white, especially if you still want to see the beautiful timber and you're just basically lightening the timber and whitening it. I did do a video on whitening timber, bleaching versus whitewashing, and I would never bleach timber again myself. I would just do a really thin whitewash, and that does the job, and it will lighten the timber and just make it look lighter, but it still looks like it's the timber there. It doesn't look like it's been painted at all. I decided to distress this piece because it is sort of an older looking piece, or older fashioned looking piece. I mean, it looks nice and new and fresh with the paint, but I thought I would distress it, and also that's what Mary does, she distresses her things. And I'm going to wax this for protection, and it will also bring out a little bit of the colour too in the actual transfer. So I use Glitz beeswax. It's really easy, and it doesn't change the colour of things too much. It may deepen them a little bit. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. It's the first time me trying my DIY transfers on actual furniture, and I'm very, very pleased with the result. There are a few things I could change and tweak, I think, and I'll be doing that in upcoming videos, but I love this piece. And what do you think? I'll see you next week in my next week's video. Have a great week, and bye for now. Hi there, it's Danny here from our humble home, and in today's video I'll be doing an instant DIY furniture transfer using just a print on copy paper, normal copy paper, and with a special product from Kmart, a cheap product. I did find the basic idea for this online, and I did not think it would work because the design that they used was from an inkjet.